Roller derby is a popular pastime for folks all over. While it may not have as large a fan base as football or baseball, it nevertheless has a fierce one. A sport catered mostly to women but inclusive to all, roller derby is a fantastic sport that is built on a very inclusive and welcoming community that continues to support each other. Roller derby was first thought to be the brainchild of Leo Seltzer, a sports promoter in the 1930s in the height of the Great Depression. Its initial form was mostly just multi day endurance runs with men and women. Later, sports writer Damon Runyon approached Seltzer to focus on the violence of the sport to bring in more audience members, and when that worked, a new rules set and points system was enacted. Some things about Derby that have stayed the same since its inception include the inclusion that it brought. Even back in the 30s, the teams were often co-ed and included openly gay career members and were involved and welcomed. Derby continued to varying successes within the league, but was eventually shut down in the 70s due to the oil shortage, making it too expensive to travel. In the early 2000s, in Austin, Texas, a league surfaced that prided itself on being a safe space and to be tough for women and for leaning into the camp that previous iterations of Derby had. Since then, the flat track revival of roller derby spread to many leagues and teams that are in motion today. There is less emphasis on the violence as skaters are no longer allowed to punch each other and push each other off the track, and the tracks that are played on are now flat tracks instead of the bank tracks of yesteryear, mostly due to the fact that bank tracks are not as prominent and the setup is easier for flat tracks. The flat track revival also shifted the sport from a professional organization to an inclusive community, volunteer run organization, allowing and requiring many leagues to be more community. Part of the aesthetic of the leagues is that of camp and bombastic presentation. The players will often skate under punny names and sometimes face paint, often called war makeup, and include clothing like skirts, fishnets, or kilts. Many of these traditions stem from the over-the-top display and punny names of drag performers in Austin, Texas, and the other localities that the leagues perform in, and have since expanded along with the rest of the leagues. Before we can learn the rules of roller derby, we need to know the positions and their responsibilities on the team. Each team would consist of about, on average, 15 players. However, only 5 are allowed on the track for each jam. A jam is the 2-minute length of time per episode within the periods, at which a player can potentially score points. A jammer is a skater who will have a star covering on their helmet, and their job is to pass to the blockers to score points. The blockers will have no signifying markers on their helmet, and they form the bulk of the pack, hindering the opposing jammer from passing through the pack and helping their team's jammer pass through. And finally, we have the pivot, whose helmet is just a stripe. The pivot is a blocker who may be converted to a jammer during the course of a jam if the jammer's helmet cover is correctly transferred in a star pass maneuver. The pivot is often an experienced player who establishes team strategy during the play and sets the pace of the pass. At the start of a jam, the 2 jammers start behind the jammer line in an oval track, with the other 4 blockers on each team on opposing sides of the line. Once the jam commences, the blockers try to block the opposing team's jammer from passing. Should the jammer of one team successfully and legally pass through the pack of blockers, they then become the lead jammer if they are the first ones through. The lead jammer will then proceed to circle the track until they reach the blockers again. The lead jammer will try to pass through or around the opposing team blockers, ideally with the assistance of their own blockers. For every opposing blocker they pass, once they have made a full circle of the track, the jammer will score 1 point. The jammer can then continue to try and circle the track again and try and gain more points with every circle. This goes on until the 2-minute episode is up, or the lead jammer signals to call an end of the jam. If the blockers do their job well, the lead jammer can score up to 5 points every pass if the opposing team's jam never makes it past the pack. Players are able to engage in various measures in an attempt to prevent scoring. The blockers could push the pack further along the track to make the lead jammer have to skate a longer distance in order for them to score. The lead jammer could change depending upon which team is in front.